everybody, because we are here with Rebecca St. James, and so thankful that you came and joined us.
Thank you.
And glad that you're back in Christian music.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that are watching this are going to be like, I remember Rebecca St. James, and other people are brand new that you're getting to introduce your story and your ministry to. And how has that been, getting to meet new people and reintroduce yourself to your old fans and
new fans?
I know, it's exciting. So I kind of put pause on music, and for me 7 years ago it was like kind of laying music down and just feeling like kind of retiring from that part of my life was the right thing. And so, but God called me radically back to music about 3 years ago. And so when he did that, I started doing some of these events and some festivals and a tour with my brothers.
About that? Like how did you know, like, I know this is like, it's
time to stop, and because you were like traveling the world and we're like
for nearly 20 years. Like, it started at 16, so it was like started really young, and then went hard at it for a long time.
So what was the Lord speaking to you in those moments? How did you know?
Well, I definitely knew it was like the right thing just to lay it down when I did, because I just really, I'd been married a couple of years at that point, and we'd been traveling together. My husband is in music too, so I was traveling some with him and traveling some for my stuff, but I had always dreamed to be a wife and a mom, and so I really
that was your heart's desire.
Oh yeah, always, since I was like little. I'm the oldest of 7, so I just super like family girl, like I just want this. So that took a little longer than kind of what I was in my plan. You know, I was like early 30s when I got married, but I just wanted to be all in on this, like establishing our family. So when we decided, in a sense, that it was like time to start trying to have kids, it was like, I want to come off the road. So, but when I kind of laid music down, it was really with the sense of like, I may never sing again, and I'm at peace about that. So 3 years ago, God so radically called me back to music, and it was like this supernatural experience with him on stage, actually, because I was saying yes to like a few things here and there, but not many. And then I was doing this event actually in Alaska with my brothers in King Country, and just a couple songs, but like God radically like called me back to it, and this probably the most immediately life transforming moment I've ever had.
Wow. Well, and you would know the cost of what it meant to be back, so maybe that's why it was so strong.
Well, he had to be really clear that like I'm doing this work, and it was radical. So that was 3 years ago, and there's a lot that's happened since then. So meeting new audiences, new generations of music, but then a lot of people that kind of grew up listening to my stuff too. It's sweet.
That's amazing. Well, I know a lot of worship leaders are kind of wondering, like, how do they navigate that as far as like family thing and where those.
And so many churches are like, we have to stay relevant by having like young people on stage, or like, you know, so then some like older, even like not really that old, right? Not 20, Exactly. People are feeling like, am I still like, do I still have a call of God in my life? Am I still gonna like be able to do this? Because you know, you're in a different season of life.
Yes, different season.
So what does that look like for you?
I mean, definitely there's been moments with our little family where it's like, this is a little crazy. You know, like I'm mama of 2, almost 3 in 4 weeks. And so my husband being super supportive of kind of this season where I'm like reestablishing ministry life really, and in the studio a lot, and just doing a lot has really provided that kind of stability and functionality that we have needed.
Really in partnership.
He's like, oh gosh, he's been amazing. So I mean, he's still got his fingers in different pies work-wise, but it's been a slower season for him. So I'm just really thankful for the grace on that, because we've been able to tag team, and then when I come home, I'm like all in, and so fatigue is a factor sometimes for sure with this album process, but it's also been really beautiful to see how he and I have my husband Cubby and I have partnered in it, and I've seen just the grace of God on that, and my husband's graciousness to me too, and his relationship with the kids solidify in a different way. They're 6 and 2, our girls, so it's sweet.
That's awesome. Good
Yeah,
time with
you have to have that. I think that unity, like we're in this together.
Yes, and it's a family mission. That's actually something. So we have a podcast too that we've just launched in the last couple months, and that was something that we just talked about recently. Is seeing what you do as a ministry, as a family ministry, like that. You invite your kids into that journey. I know you guys do that too.
Yeah, we do that,
And so, like, just saying, look, you're a part of this. Like, you're a needed part of this team, and we're called to this as a family. And I felt like God gave me that promise, actually, soon after he called me to music again in this season, because I just didn't want it to cost our kids. And so, but I felt like he said, look, if I've called you to it, then I've called them
There's
to
grace
it.
for them, too.
Yes, well, but they, and if you invite them into the adventure of it, they feel like a part of the mission, and it's like growing their faith. So we travel on the road, we homeschool so that we can do this as a family, and so we're excited. And I like our 6-year-old just loves the road. She's like, when can I go back out? When am I going on the tour bus? When am when can we be back out there? So she loves the adventure.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good way to see the road too, because then you're seeing stopping at things you wouldn't normally stop at.
Yes.
To check things out.
Yeah.
We've been to pretty much every zoo in America, so.
I'm sure yes.
When they were little.
Yeah. When we did it, so like when I was on the road with my stuff, all 7 kids came out on the road.
Oh.
So all my siblings,
So your
my
family,
brothers that are now doing,
so it's like
stuff
a
with the King
generational
country.
thing. Wow.
They kind of grew up all around that, and so I've seen it done, and now it's like very fun to be doing that with our little family.
That's awesome. So talk to us about your message, because I know, you had a very clear message in your early days, and then now come back. Do you feel like that's changed? Is it the same calling, or?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke a lot about just biblical truth in music has always just been a really important thing to me. But I spoke about purity and to young people, and then it's sweet now to be married and able to tell the rest of the story and just say, look, God is so faithful and it's so kind and bringing us together, and it's such a redemptive story, I think, because relationally I think people can get very discouraged, and I think it is a story of redemption, so that's been really cool. But I feel like now with my music, being married, having a family, having kids, even with the podcast, I just feel like there's more content to draw from, just because I've lived a different season of life. So even being gone out of the scene 7 years, there was a lot that God was just pouring into me, a lot of life lived, a lot of lessons learned in our relationship that I can draw from with my music and what I'm sharing from the stage. So it just feels like it's a deeper well now, which is nice. And I have that stability of having the family life and those dreams fulfilled that kind of just makes me feel more secure or confident. I was so young starting that I think there was a lot of insecurity before. And
you just had to be like, faith, go out there by faith.
Well,
preaching it.
Yes, and just trust God. And I mean, prayer has always been a lifeline for me, and always will be, and is. I just feel like there's more sense of security and confidence in this season, having that stability of family and those dreams having been lived out and being lived out, and it's just a beautiful kind of springboard, and a very healthy springboard from which to be in ministry.
And now you're doing the whole next level of going into this by faith. And saying, okay, now we're living the next part of the dream.
Exactly. There's a sweetness on it for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so I listened to your album. By the time we air this, it'll be out. But love the sound.
Thank you.
So
it sounds so fresh.
Good.
Wow.
We're aiming for that.
Good. Yeah.
You worked with Seth Mosley on some of that.
Yeah.
And I think worship in general, because some of the songs are very like you could sing them on a Sunday.
Yes.
Other ones are maybe more contemplative at
Yes.
home kind of stuff. But I think worship is looking for a new sound, and I'm just kind of wondering like how you went through that process with your producer and everything to find those moments, and if you could just kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So Seth Mosley and Ted T were the two producers on these songs, and Ted I've worked with since I was 16, 17.
Oh,
like
wow.
he did my second, third, fourth albums, and then successive songs after that too. And then Seth, he's worked with my brothers, and then a lot of Christian artists, and worked in the worship world too. It was a very good marriage. Yeah, they have worked together, but then I had this history with Ted, creatively, and then Seth's just amazing and has that worship understanding.
Yeah.
So it was a real joy to get to, and an honor to work with both of them. For me, I think I've always had such a heart for worship. My first album that I ever recorded was in Australia, and I was 13, and it was a worship album. So I kind of grew up around Hillsongs and went to that church right when God was starting to do a really powerful and amazing work before everybody knew about Hillsongs. But that was my foundation. And then I've had albums since then that have been fully dedicated to worship. Yeah. But every album has had, I don't know, that kind of undercurrent of vertical lyrics, trying to point to God, making them prayers, but certain albums have been fully dedicated to it. And this one is one of those. Every album to varying degrees, I have attempted to bring something that feels creatively fresh and creatively to have creative integrity. Yeah. So sometimes I've been more worn out than others, and I feel like some of my albums I listen back and I'm like, oh no, because I just didn't have the energy. I'd been on the road too much, or I'd been working on a book and an album and being on the road and a movie, and just too much. And you just have, all of us just have only so much capacity. So I can hear it on certain albums where I just didn't have the fight to bring this kind of fresh modern sound. But I feel like on this one, after being gone a long time, there was this appreciation even that I was being able to make music again and be in the studio and have that privilege of creating. So
almost like a blank canvas again. You can be whoever
exactly.
you want.
Exactly. So I definitely speak a lot into the sound, and it's very much a partnership with producers, I'm excited about what God might do through this project, because we really want to serve the church. We really want people to sing these songs in the church, and for it to be songs that connect with people's hearts, and that they can use it to really lift their eyes to Jesus and worship him. And we wanted to bring this kind of fresh flavor too. So it was a bit of a challenge.
I bet. So was this a conversation you had with the producers and said this is my vision for it? And how did you explain what kind of sound you were looking for, or did you just kind of have to do the experimenting and figure out?
A lot of experimenting, some references, although I've always kind of been I think a bit of a purist when it comes to music, that I just don't want to sound like anybody. I want people to feel like this is just something that is very kind of organic and authentic, not I'm trying to be this other person. Because I don't want to be a copycat of what the world's doing. The Christian version of. And I've had people, say, oh, back in the day, you sound a little bit and always I'm like, because that was never what I would ever want.
No, you were trying to do that,
We've really sought to do something that feels artistically authentic, as well as obviously very ministry focused and tuned into the Spirit and anointed. Just want that marriage. And more than anything, we wanted to connect. People just to be able to engage with it, feel it, worship him. It was just a dialogue very consistently. And thankfully I was working with two producers that really got it and kind of heard what I heard. And, were able to kind of go on that creatively exploratory adventure with me.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting now to be at a point where we're seeing fruit from the work. Because it took a long time. It took double the amount of time I've ever worked on any album ever.
Wow.
A year and a half.
Wow. Chase sounds.
Yeah, and write, and just lots of writing, more writing than I've ever done. But I think working that muscle again of songwriting and just working it back up again, creating and finding that place of freedom, confidence, working through insecurities, it just took a while.
Yeah. So talk about the different songs. Is there one that you would say is the most congregational that you would like point worship leaders to and say, hey, you need to at least check this one out?
So probably like the two that instantly come to mind for that would be Battle is the Lord's, which is the single that's out right now. And then there's another song. So that song is a kind of a duet with Brandon Lake, which is awesome from Bethel. And
he's so cool.
He's such a great guy, amazing guy. Yeah. And then Josh Baldwin, also from Bethel, he and I and Ted wrote a song called Middle of the Fire, which will probably be something that is released to the church and radio in a more focused way. Mm-hmm. But it's all about just like worshiping him in the middle of the fire and like trusting him in the middle of life's challenges and like just redirecting our attention to him. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about worship is that it just sets our eyes on Jesus and not on ourselves or our circumstances, because we can just get so heavy.
Especially right now, everyone's just like, okay, when is this going to end?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and fear. You know, fear can just become such a challenging thing. Yeah. And
you can feel it in the air sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking around, you're like, oh, we're all a little scared.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there's even a line in Battle is the Lord's that just says, fear has to leave now. Like, your kingdom's here now. Yours is the power and the glory. It's like, I set my eyes on Jesus and I worship him. And the fear has to leave, and anything that is not of him has to leave. And so writing that like a year previous. Yeah, it was a while ago. Oh yeah.
And then here we are, and we need these songs. To
battle. Yeah. I mean that's been really encouraging too, just seeing the timeliness of these messages, because we were working on Middle of the Fire and Battle is the Lord's like early 2019. Or halfway through. Wow. And so I had no idea what 2020 was going to look like and how much we'd all need to be reminded that the battle is the Lord's and that he's going before us and he's our protector and that in the middle of the fire we can trust him. I mean, all these messages that are just so like for now. Yeah. And these songs have ministered to me like in these times and just being a reset and even in, some of the insecurities that I've had to work through with artistry and singing again and all of it. Like when I finished out in music, I had some vocal issues that were coming from stress because I was so exhausted and like kind of, so even working through some of that, I've had to like claim these songs. There's another song on the album called Fallback, and I think it could be really a powerful baptism song, actually. Because it says, I fall back into the arms that hold the world. And it's just this concept of like trusting Jesus and falling back into his arms. And I feel like baptism, just that experience of like total surrender, that's the song. And that was written, one of the writers on that song was Mia Fields, who's just written so many amazing worship songs. She's so killer at what she does. She is. So I can see that. And another Aussie,
who came from those.
Roots
there at least.
So I can really see that song being used in worship, like in a set normally, but just. It just says, with my hands high, my heart open wide, I fall back into the arms that hold the world. So it's like inviting you to worship God and surrender at the same time, which is really what true worship is. Right. But I think it could be used in both contexts, in a normal set, but then especially when baptism is happening, I think it could be something really special about that. I'd like to make a video actually that kind of shows in a creative way people being baptized for that song. So
that's amazing.
We'll see.
Yeah. Right. See what comes of it.
Yeah.
Well, we will encourage everybody who's out there listening, go and check out your album, and just thankful for your ministry and leadership and the time.
Excited to see how the Lord is just leading and where the album's going to go and the songs, and it's going to be good.
Thank you. We're excited too. We just feel it's like a new adventure.
Yeah.
So I would say I've had quite a few worship fails over the years to pull from when I think about it. I mean, everything from falling over on stage because there was a chord that just happened to be right there in the middle of a very dramatic song about Jesus' return. I mean, that was very early days, so it was especially traumatizing. But then, I mean, to tracks cutting out, that also had happened really early on where I was just doing tracks. And my dad, who was managing me at the time, happened to say, because it was a very big industry event, kind of a big deal, that I was, even a part of this event, and I was 16 or so, and he just happened to say before I went out on stage, hey, if the track's cut out, just do a worship song. Think right now of a song that you will do to invite everybody into this kind of communal experience. And so we ended up doing that, and thankfully the fail of the tracks going out, because it did happen, ended up being this really, really beautiful redemptive moment, because people for years would come up to me afterwards and just say, do you remember that time where your track cut out and you were on stage at this big event and you ended up just singing a cappella worship with everybody? And so it ended up being a fail, because you don't want that to happen. You do not want your tracks to go out when that's all you have, and you have no guitar, and that's all you have. But God redemptively used that in this beautiful communal moment that just a cappella worship ended up happening. So I'm very thankful that he showed his grace in that situation, because it was a rough one.